Hi, so I haven't done one of these in a while. For those of you who don't know me, my name's Philippa Davis and I am the founder and now very proudly the CEO for Baby Loss charity, Our Sam. Our Sam are currently in development stages, working towards supporting people affected by baby loss through raising awareness and understanding of the effects and issues around baby loss. But that's not why I'm here tonight. The reason I'm here tonight is really just to do with me. And it is just me, not me, CEO, not me, founder, just me, Philippa. Well, me and Albert behind me. Why am I here? Well, for those of you who follow me, tonight is the eve of my birthday plans for this year. This isn't something I ever do. So why am I doing it now, and why am I doing it so publicly? Well, I suppose the reason I'm doing it this year is because this year is, I'd like to say special year for me, but I suppose special doesn't come into it. I would say it's more of a challenging year, more of a year that is a first step to try and achieve a life for me. So for years I've battled to be a mum. Being a mum is a goal and a dream that I have had since I was very young. I suppose in my younger years it was very much a goal I kept to myself. It was a dream I kept to myself. I'm not really quite sure why, other than the fact that I grew up in quite a male environment. I suppose I had my brother and then I had various stepbrothers, and I kind of always had male friends and messing about with rally cars and motorbikes, and so it was really quite a male orientated environment, and I was pretty much a daddy's girl as well. And then I kind of stepped from that into an academic environment, and neither of those environments kind of felt comfortable to disclose this huge, great big dream I had of being a mum. And so I just thought, well, I'll keep it to myself. It's okay, because what will happen is that just like everybody else around me, it'll happen organically. You know, it'll grow. I'll meet the right person and I'll live happily ever after, and I'll have that wonderful family that I always wanted, and it will just happen naturally. I don't need to make a big thing about disclosing it. The best laid plans were kind of how it went, really. Things didn't develop organically. I didn't end up in the situation that family was something that could happen, and so my journey to become a parent was really started later than most people, although there are many people now trying to start their journey as a parent later on in life, and I was heading towards my late 30s at the time. Unfortunately, by the time I was in the position and heading towards my journey of parenthood, I was also I'd also been diagnosed at this stage with polycystic ovarian syndrome, PCOS, which, for anyone who doesn't know, is kind of a cysts accumulating on your ovaries. So at the point at which you're supposed to ovulate, instead of kind of follicles with eggs in, what you do is you create fluid cysts that sit on your ovaries, and you hope they disappear on their own, but some of them just kind of get bigger and bigger. And at this stage I was also minus an ovary because of the damage done by a cyst, or the damage kind of ruptured. When the cyst ruptured, it ruptured my ovary as well, and they couldn't really save the ovary, so I was down to one ovary with polycystic ovarian syndrome. So I thought my challenge to become a parent was going to be all around infertility. But as Sam's dad said to me at the time, there are ways and means. You know, we can get through this. And I really thought that would be my only challenge. And at that point in my life and through my early life, I was very much an optimist, always the optimistic dreamer. You know, if I want something enough, all I've got to do is work at it and it'll happen. And You know, if you want something enough, it'll, you know, it will happen when it's ready. And I had all these beliefs in my head. Little did I know what was going to happen. And after a number of years trying, we lost our first early pregnancy just before we went for IVF for Sam. So of course the positive test result with Sam was just incredible. It was just, you know, despite the sadness from the first loss, from our first miscarriage, you know, Sam being there was just incredible. It was amazing. And that was probably the last birthday I truly celebrated about 9 years ago. And on my fundraising page, you'll see a picture of a dessert with happy birthday written around it. And that was actually from that night, the night of my 40th birthday. Such a happy birthday. And I was 12 weeks pregnant with Sam. I mean, what more could I want? That was just the best present and the best birthday. But again, best laid plans. Sadly, by the point we got to the 20-week scan, we were given the diagnosis of, or Sam's diagnosis of Edwards syndrome. So we knew we were going to lose Sam at this point. We chose our own personal decision not to go for termination. We could have done at 20 weeks, but we decided not to. But we knew we were going to lose her. Sam, bless her, went on until going into her 33rd week. But, you know, obviously before that we hadn't known whether we would meet her or anything else. But losing Sam, gosh, those 2 weeks, you know, obviously, first of all, we found out that she'd stopped dancing. Her heart had stopped during the 32nd week. And a week later, I gave birth. I had to deliver Sam. And a week after that, we had her funeral. And those 2 weeks there aren't any words to describe it. There aren't any words to describe losing a baby. It's, yeah, beyond me as a writer and as somebody who uses words every day, as a lecturer, as somebody who communicates. There aren't any words. The pain is horrendous, and there's nothing worse, I don't think. You know, I thought that was the worst thing I could ever face in my life, and it was. But unfortunately, we then went on to face losing 3 more babies at different earlier stages of pregnancy. And I struggled. I have struggled massively. I was somebody who, gosh, I was somebody who always had the answers. I was that optimistic dreamer who always had the answers. I was, you know, always pretty much happy all the time. I was fairly happy-go-lucky. I was very outgoing. But this broke me. It broke me, and for the first time in my life, I started to battle with my mental health, depression, anxiety. I'd seen other people struggle with it and supported other people, but I couldn't get that. You know, I wasn't ever going to have problems with my mental health, ever. But I did. Massive problems, anxiety, depression. After baby 3, I was diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder, and it's been hell. It's been hell. And around the stage after I lost Sam, I kind of went into a cave, and the only time I came out of that cave was the different points I became pregnant again, and then I returned to my cave every time I lost another baby, and I locked myself away. And I had it took me a long time to get support, but I had an amazing counsellor in the end, and she worked through with me. I developed phobias around babies and other pregnant ladies, and I really struggled, something I thought I'd never do. And it wasn't until after we lost our last pregnancy about 2.5 years ago that I finally decided I was going to come back out into the world. And I suppose that first year was one of trying to face the world again. The person who went into that cave was very sad, but the person who came out of that cave was a completely different person altogether, and a person who was never going to change. And I'd gone from this optimistic, outgoing, happy-go-lucky person to this person who was terrified of life, terrified of people, considered myself to be a freak, and it was really tough. All I'd ever wanted was to be a mum, and I then had to face 2.5 years ago, not only coming out and facing the public, but trying to find a way to find a life that I could accept, knowing that I was never going to be a mum. Last year I dipped my toe in the water, and I was really proud of myself for what I managed to achieve, and then I achieved Dancing in the Wings. But this year it's been different. Obviously it's been different for everybody, but this year, irrespective of COVID, I have well and truly had to accept that the journey to becoming a mum is over. It's finished, and that leaves just me. And that's hard, because my whole motivation in life was about that, my maternal streak, and wanting to have that family, wanting to have people in my life that I looked after. Now I have my animals, and just me. So the reason I'm doing it for this birthday is because it's a hard one, because it's trying to do things for me, things that I never thought I'd have to do. I never thought I wouldn't be a mum. I still battle my mental health, I still battle anxiety, I still have some really bad days. But now I have to try and accept that the journey's over, and my life, I have to try and find a way to accept living for me. So what I've done with my plans for my birthday, and it's not been easy, but what I wanted to do was do things that I wanted to do. The things that I would have done with my children, and I would give everything, anything, to be doing them with my children, but I have to face the reality that I'm not doing them with my children, I'm doing them by myself. And that's hard. And it's going to be a tough few days for me, because I start my journey at Chester Zoo tomorrow, and I've always loved Chester Zoo for a long, long time. You know, since I grew up, since I was very little, I loved Chester Zoo. And the last time I went was with my niece and nephews, and